Good morning.
Good morning.
This is the, good morning, and we have Supervisor Wickham and Supervisor McDonough participating via Zoom, and looks like we have 26 participants at this time. This is the Dubuque County Board of Supervisors meeting, the special COVID-19 meeting, and then we have other business as well tacked on to the end of this. So Monday, August 31st, 10 a.m., and we'll go right to the agenda. Work session to discuss COVID-related issues. So let's go to Patrice Lambert for Patrice's report. Patrice, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Happy Monday. Nice rainy day. Hopefully we'll get some rain anyway. I just want to begin by sharing that Tom Berger nor Stacy Killian are able to attend today. They both had other additional conflicts, so I will fill in a little bit for both of them as well. But I am just going to start again real quickly by telling you our most current numbers for Dubuque County as of this morning. Individuals tested in Dubuque County, 24,029. Individuals out of that number that were positive, 2,031. Total recovered, 1,535. And unfortunately, we are at 36 deaths. In Dubuque County, our positive cases by age range, still 50% from that 18 to 40-year-old. And then 25% from the 41 to 60-year-olds. So that's not changing too much. Our positivity rate for Dubuque County, according to the dashboard, the coronavirus dashboard is 7.2%. Our hospitals have actually decreased. We have 7 this weekend that were hospitalized. Let's see here. I believe that's pretty much all for the dashboard updates. And then just a few other things to share with you. The incident management team continues to be very, very busy. We are meeting weekly now, as I had shared last week, with all of our schools, pre-K through 12, all of our colleges, our isolation shelter manager, and the VNA that assists in that shelter. We meet weekly with our hospital incident command team, and I'm drawing a blank with our other weekly one, but we do have quite a few. Oh, we do touch base also with our daycare providers on a weekly basis through Kim Gonzalez at the VNA. Tom had pretty much reported that it's been slow with the personal protective equipment. They're still making deliveries as requested, but it has slowed down quite a bit. Let's see here. Stacy, as you know, we still do a contact tracing through the Iowa Department of Public Health. However, the Visiting Nurse Association, Stacy and her staff, continue to do calls to all of our positive cases in Dubuque County, as well as the contact tracing. And now with the schools in session, we have had some busy weekends just to make certain when Stacy does call for our contact tracers, and for the positives as well, again, make sure that they have a safe place to either isolate or quarantine. And if they are a contact tracer, if they don't have any means to be tested, we still are working with a local healthcare provider with our kits that we had gotten through IDPH that we can make appointments for them to go in and be tested. Stacy did share that for the calls and contacts with the community, they're up to 17,353. With the scheduling for the appointments with the contact tracing up to date, she has assisted she and her staff to be tested for COVID for 151 individuals. VNA and her staff, Stacy and her staff, are still providing daily and weekly check-ins with 11 facilities just providing public health support. And as you're aware, we do not have any local long-term care facility that is in an outbreak status at this time. That's pretty much all that I have. I know that Tom Beschen is on the line. He'll be giving the update on the masks. Ed is on the line, and last week we've been working with the colleges for an update with that, and I believe Ed's going to be sharing that. So I guess that would be all that I have for this Monday morning. Are there any questions?
Yes, good morning,
Patrice.
Patrice. Ann McDonough. The dashboard that the school district has in the Dubuque Community School Districts, did you help facilitate that?
No, we did not. I'm glad you brought that up because the colleges, I know some of the colleges in the state of Iowa are doing dashboards as well. But when the schools did contact us about a local dashboard, we had said that we gave them contact name with IDPH and did say just double check, because we don't want anyone to be able to be identified through that dashboard because, again, we're very, very strong in stating, as you know, with the zip codes, we can't even give out the data as of yet for zip codes because of breaking any type of a confidentiality issue with identifying someone. But I do know that the Dubuque schools, sure. I believe the Dubuque schools have a dashboard. I don't know about the others as of yet.
So whatever process the Dubuque Community School District followed to get a dashboard, there is a way to do that, and we are not involved in that. So that would be up to Western Dubuque School District. If they wish to pursue that, they would have to do that themselves, correct?
Correct. Yes,
okay.
Correct.
And then my question is, of course, many of the smaller communities in our county have asked us for greater access to details as well, similar to the dashboard that they saw the school districts, the Dubuque Community School District putting out. Do you know, is there a way for a community to get a dashboard that just reflects their data? Maybe let's suppose even the city of Dubuque would like that.
My last understanding, Ann, and I can follow up with this and get back to you, is that the state is going to be starting a new reporting basis. It's called the DOMI, and we were informed of this a little over a month. And they have been informing us that we are going to be in service on this very, very soon. Well, then it seems as though, and we do have weekly meetings, too, with IDPH. It seems like on those weekly meetings, it's, a statement that they're not quite up and ready to present that. But it's my understanding on that new program that there will be some access to zip codes. But now until, we actually see it, I don't know if that would be a possibility or not. But from a local county public health, no, we are not able to assist in establishing one as of this time. But I'll double check on that. And I can send something out to the city clerk so that they know as well.
I have two other questions.
Sure.
I'd like to know the number of individuals at the county shelter, the isolation shelter. Do you know that?
At our meeting last week, there were 0. They did not have any. And I do not know over the weekend. I have not talked to the manager today, so I do not know if there was any admitted over the weekend or not.
Okay. And then my last question goes a bit more broader to process, and so I would ask Tom Beschen, when we segue to him, he can help as well. But for the past few months, I have consistently asked for the attachments to the Board of Health meeting. I have not seen any reports from the VNA. I have not seen your summary report. None of that has been shared. And I'm asking that in my capacity as a supervisor, and I don't have it. So, and you don't go through those at your meeting, you just summarize maybe if there's some time. So I have a concern about whether or not we are building transparency from the Board of Health and getting that information out to citizens and mayors, supervisors, media. Can you help me with that?
I know I'll share that, or I'll let Tom jump in on that conversation. I can share that the regular scheduled large Board of Health meetings meet every other month. And that is when we do gather the reports from Sassy, from Mary Boots, and then from Stacy Killian. And I will also share that those are sent to the Board of Health before the meeting so that they can review those. And then if there's any questions, they can be asked. But I will be honest in sharing too, the last over the summer, I have not presented a formal written report. It has all been verbal. And so anything that I've shared could be shared or could be listened to on the link of the Zoom. But I don't see why we could not include those reports when we post the minutes. I mean, I think that's a good idea. But I would let Tom make that final decision.
I believe they should be shared with your agenda packet, just like the supervisors attempt to share everything that's coming before us, so that the community is aware and can follow along and might be able to comment at your meetings. That would be helpful. So if you could pursue that, I would appreciate it greatly.
Sure, and I don't see why we couldn't do it. That's a good idea. Sure.
Thanks, Patrice.
Patrice, Dave Baker, I had a question for you. You reported there are currently no outbreaks in long-term care facilities in Dubuque County, which is wonderful news. My question is, I want to know if the state has changed in any way the definition of outbreak regarding long-term care facilities like they did in the meatpacking industry.
To my knowledge, no, they have not. Now, Chris, I know, is on the line. Chris might have some more up-to-date since she would be getting those direct reports for them. But no, it's, to my understanding, they have not changed as far as the outbreak status for long-term cares. And Chris, are you on? Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to know if it's still, and maybe Chris can jump in if she would like, but is it still 3, and is that 3 residents,
correct,
3 staff, or a cumulative total of 3?
No, it's my understanding it's 3 residents, and it has to be within that time frame of, well, Chris, you can jump in. Is it the time frame of the 14 days?
Yes, Patrice, that is correct. They have not changed our outbreak status in the state of Iowa.
Thank you.
Okay, and do either of you know what they call an outbreak with staff, or is staff not considered when they call an outbreak?
To my knowledge, it is not, but the state will inform us of that, and then that's when we do have state conferences with the nursing home administrator, the Visiting Nurse Association, and myself. And that would be for residents as well as staff. They do call us together.
Okay, thank you. Other questions for Patrice? All right.
None for me at this time.
Thank you. All right, and you had indicated that neither Stacy nor Tom Berger are available today?
Correct, yep.
And do you know if they have, if, for example, the next, well, let's go to Chris Kirsch, and we'll go to Chris for our Sunnycrest administrator update.
Okay, so I'll start off with, well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Chris.
So we have 4 residents in our level 1 isolation, and we have 0 residents in level 2 and 3. We have not tested any residents or staff in the last several weeks. So CMS, the federal government, has come out with guidelines. They have been published, so they will be effective on September 2nd. And these guidelines are for staff testing. Staff testing is based on your county positivity rate. And CMS has a website in which every county in the United States is listed. And they have listed Dubuque County as 6.2%. So that means we have to test our employees once a week. Now, if we would have been at 5% or less, it would have been once a month. If we would have been over 10%, we would have had to test twice per week. We did receive our BD Veritor system. It is a rapid detection. That is a testing machine. It takes 15 minutes for each test, which you might think is rather rapid, but we have 180 employees, so that will still take us 2.5 days over a 24-hour period of 2.5 days to get everybody tested. So it's going to take us a complete week to get 180 people tested. The FDA just approved the Abbott test. So I have requested information about the Abbott test. The BD Veritor, which we did receive from the federal government, those testing kits cost $32.50 for replacement. We did receive 330 test kits with our testing device. So simple math, I don't have enough for 2 weeks. So we did order 400 of those testing kits. And however, the Abbott test are $5 a piece. So I'm hoping to hear back about that today. Along with the guidelines comes the reporting. I do have to report these tests results, both positive and negative, within 24 hours to IDPH. If not, each report that's not reported within 24 hours is a $400 fine up to $10,000. And Dave, to answer your question, they have changed our outbreak status. CMS outbreak says 1 positive staff or 1 positive resident. What does that mean to my testing? That means that triggers testing of everyone, staff and residents. The previous conversation I was having was just staff. Now it's staff and residents for 1 positive resident or 1 positive staff every 3 to 7 days for at least 14 days or until there are no positive results. So that's my life right now.
So Chris, we have two different sets of rules defining outbreak at this time.
Yes, and you always go with the most strict. So CMS, the federal guidelines are the most strict. So the outbreak status from the federal government is 1 positive staff or 1 positive resident is considered an outbreak.
Okay, thank you for that. And Patrice, is this something you're aware of?
No, I just got the updated information. I believe, Chris, did you just send those to me on Friday? And I have not thoroughly gone through those as of yet. So now I know for the federal guidelines.
So CMS just published these and they go into effect September 2nd. We are in what's called a week of that they will accept comment on these guidelines. I'm doubtful that they'll change anything about these, but I also ordered 200 testing kits from IDPH. There's another guideline within these guidelines that you have to have your testing results turn around within 48 hours. And we know that with IDPH, when they have an overload, they're not able to turn around their tests within 48 hours. They usually average about 72 hours on a turnaround time when they're overloaded. So, but I did order 200 testing kits just in case I get backlogged and I'm not meeting my weekly requirement for CMS.
Chris, we have a question from Diane Freiberger from the Board of Health, and I think it's probably a good question. Do we know of any other long-term care facilities in Dubuque County that also has one of these rapid testing machines?
So the federal government has distributed these machines to all long-term care facilities, all licensed long-term care facilities. And they went out in different shipments. I received mine on Friday. Now, some long-term care facilities are not receiving theirs and are not expected to receive theirs until September 28th, I believe. So I know of several long-term care facilities in Dubuque who already have theirs. And yes, Nathan,
Okay,
your math is correct.
Just so that in case some folks that are on by phone can't see it, here was the comment. Doing some math here, you would need 20 machines to do it efficiently.
Yeah, I'm just kind of overwhelmed because when a test takes 15 minutes and then all the data points that you have to collect for IDPH, let's just say that takes 5 minutes. So you're only going to be able to do 3 tests per hour. And I have 180 employees. If I work 24 hours a day, that's 2.5 days. So it's going to take all week. And that's if our positivity rate stays between that 5 and 10%. Another thing in the CMS guidelines, if our positivity rate would go down below 5%, we can't go to a monthly rate unless our positivity rate stays below 5% for 2 weeks. However, if our positivity rate goes above 10%, we must immediately go to twice per week. So.
Okay.
Chris, this is Ed Raber. I had a quick question. Thank you for all that information. Just to make sure that I understand, the machine that CMS sent to you, it's only able to process 1 test at a time.
1 test every 15 minutes.
Yes.
Patrice,
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Chris. This is a question for Chris, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Chris, I think it's a very positive thing that we're getting testing of the staff at the long-term care centers. Many of our staff members are in the age category where we see the cases spreading quickly. So I think it's a very positive thing for the community as a whole that greater testing is going to happen. The logistics of it appear to be, very difficult, not efficient, but I'm glad that somebody's on it and collecting that data. So I'm sorry that you're going to spend maybe your career at this point doing the testing, but it's a good thing. I'd like to have you step us through the funding for these, the numbers and the costs that you've given to us of the quantity of testing and the amount that it costs. What is the funding source for that?
Okay, so HHS, the Department of Health and Human Services, has provided us with COVID relief. We received a total of, I believe, if Stella's on the call, she can correct me. I believe we have $500,000 in our general relief fund right now for COVID expenses. So the expenses for these testing kits will come out of that COVID money.
Thank you.
And one good thing about this BD Veritor machine is you don't have to be a registered nurse or a licensed practical nurse you just have to go through their training and be deemed competent to use the machine.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Other questions for Chris Kirsch? All right. Thank you, Chris. We'll move forward here. The next item would be the emergency management team update. And my understanding is that Tom Berger may not be available. Is anyone else giving a report for the emergency management team?
No, this is Patrice, and the only thing that Tom had said was that they're slow in their PPE responsibilities right now, but as requests come in, they have been doing the distribution of those. And he shared that this morning, so.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right, and then our testing update, we would normally have Ed Raber and Stacy Killian talking about this. I know Ed Raber's available. Ed, do you have any testing updates? You need to be unmuted, Ed.
Thank you, Chair Baker. This is Ed Raber. So that's a lot of information this morning. One of the things I wanted to share with you is some conversations that I had last week. The incident management team at Patrice and others invited me to sit in on their weekly phone conversation with area colleges, and I did that and asked those individuals if I could call them afterwards. So they have a short window that they get together on a weekly basis to talk about some hurdles and things, and I took an opportunity to get with them and go a little bit deeper to find out just a little bit how they've been planning for COVID, how they're addressing students getting back on campus, issues around testing, and any hurdles or things that they've come across. So I wanted to share with you that in general, it sounds like I talked with 6 colleges last week locally, and I actually talked with a couple of colleges out of area that are also Division III NCAA schools in Iowa. In general, I'd say that there's a certain apprehension out there as it becomes less of a discussion about what kind of planning they're making to an implementation one as students come back on campus. There have been several of the colleges that are working through the issues with Iowa Department of Public Health on becoming a Test Iowa site for education. The Iowa Department of Public Health has made it pretty clear that that is for local colleges and their health services department, or their medical clinic if they have one on campus, and a staffer there to be able to test any symptomatic students, faculty, or staff on campus there. It's a convenience thing for those. And anyone that maybe has been immediately around some people that have tested positive. So it's not meant to be a open or community Test Iowa site. And conversations I've been around made it pretty clear that the state had not intended that to be one to test entire student populations or all faculty and staff. Most of those colleges had not planned on doing that, and they've been making arrangements for their students to be able to access a variety of different places to get testing, which includes the local pharmacies with the program Hardig's and Union, and those have been utilized. The Test Iowa Clinic at Epic Health and Wellness on Cedar Cross, as well as Crescent and other medical clinics for people to go to in case their medical service team says you need to go get a different kind of checkup. So all of those have been utilized. There does seem to have been some confusion through the last week and a half about that state program. I think information is coming to them from the state that is helping to clarify that. I think for some reason there had been a couple of misstarts on that. I've had an opportunity to look through most of the state's presentation and slide deck on that, and it appears that in some cases there maybe were some different expectations about what that was going to be, but my understanding that those colleges are just simply going to have an opportunity for if they choose to do that, to do some on-campus testing of symptomatic people. Several of the colleges that are a little bit smaller have indicated they are not going to do that, and are continuing to solidify their relationships with those other testing resources. So I imagine that there will be some additional updates as the process of how that actually works is going to work itself out, but that those were excellent conversations. The colleges, and these were with the administrative staff that are on the weekly call with the incident management team. They were very appreciative of having someone reach out to them. So they appreciated just the touch base that they get with the incident management team, and another just an opportunity to talk about their planning. So we'll have to continue to monitor that, I think, fairly closely, but that is what they are planning for at our local colleges. Did anyone have any particular questions about that? That's just a summary of those conversations with those 6 institutions.
Any questions for Ed?
In addition, lastly, I'll add that Chris Kirsch had shared some information about the testing machine that the state had provided. I will let you know that some of the colleges are also monitoring that in case that's an opportunity that CMS has kind of captured a lot of that quantity because they're shipping them to all of the long-term care facilities across the country. So a lot of those opportunity to get more of those is a little bit limited right now. I have been exploring that through a couple different venues in case that's something that we'd like to be able to get more of. I think that the price of those cartridges and testing supplies continues to go down, and there were a couple different instances where there were colleges here, colleges elsewhere in the state of Iowa that are really monitoring that Abbott test that just received FDA approval that would allow you to self-administer a test and then have the test in about 15 minutes in a device that's approximately the size of a phone or something like that, or a credit card maybe that you put that medium on. So I think we're in a transitional phase in terms of testing and how that's going to be delivered. The governor last week delivered some updates on testing and indicated that these tests, like the one that Chris Kirsch referenced in her report, that they're going to be added to the state's totals on their dashboard. I didn't quite understand that at the time, but apparently individuals that test with that system previously, as they were working out the kinks, were listed, those test results were listed as uncertain. So now if you get a positive in that test that would be delivered at Chris's Sunnycrest, that would be listed as a positive for the county and not an uncertain.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Any other questions for Ed Raber? Thank you for your report, Ed.
Thank you for the report.
Okay, at this point, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is the Board of Health update. And at this time, I will turn it over to Chair Tom Besson of the Dubuque County Board of Health.
Thank you, Chair Baker. Well, I guess the biggest thing to report is that the Board of Health did have a public hearing last Wednesday night at their Board of Health meeting, and we heard from a good cross-section of the county residents. We had about 115 written comments and 25 speakers. As it turned out, those comments were about right down the middle between favoring a mask mandate and opposing a mask mandate. The exact numbers are published in the meeting minutes, and very quickly, of the written comments, there were 67 in favor, or 64 in favor, 57 opposed. Of the speakers, 11 were in favor, 14 were opposed. We did have a couple hiccups on our process along the way, but all in all, for a public hearing to be conducted by Zoom, I think it was a fairly successful event. The board did take those comments, and by unanimous decision, the board passed the mask mandate with one minor amendment, that being that a person did not have to carry a statement saying their physician or they have been recommended not to wear a mask. So with that's the only update I have. Our next meeting is a week from this coming Wednesday on the 9th of September. Any questions?
Tom, Dave Baker, I'll ask a question because this issue will be coming to the Board of Supervisors next, and so I do want to check with County Attorney C.J. May. Don't know if he's on the meeting or not, about the where we go with because it was I was aware that there was a minor modification to it. I don't know if that is significant or not, but I do want to check the process out to make sure we do it right. This is a first for most of us in our lifetime, and we want to make sure we do it right. So we will be asking for County Attorney May's opinion on the process to follow to make sure we do it right.
Okay. That quite understandable, Chair Baker. It's a new process for the Board of Health, too.
Absolutely. Yep. All right. Any questions for Tom Besson, Chair of the Dubuque County Board of Health?
Tom, I think in fairness, we should state that Jim Merton, the mayor of Piasta, and I believe, I know that Wayne Kennecker is with us. I see his name here. He's the mayor of Sageville. They have asked for a work session with the Board of Supervisors to discuss. They submitted, I think, extensive points that they wish to have the Board of Health consider, and they don't feel that those were considered. Your deliberation was quite short, so at least the deliberation in public. So there will be a work session together with the Board of Supervisors, and we would invite you certainly to be present at that. They've sent us a lengthy list.
Yes, I've had some conversation with Mayor Merton, so I'm aware.
Right, it looks like we have several mayors on, and I would ask if we are going to have public comments at some point. As chair of this overall meeting, I would think that if they would like to speak on this, Chair Besh, I would ask that maybe we would take some of that time and allow some of those folks to speak if they want to today. There's no action being taken today on this, and as Supervisor McDonough has suggested, there will be a work session, and it will need to involve County Attorney May and whoever else wants to participate in the process. So,
Chair
so
Baker? This is Jay Wickham. If I can make a recommendation, I know we've got a lengthy agenda with a lot of other items on there. If you would allow people to briefly comment, particularly elected officials, under the Board of Health update, I think that would be appropriate, and I would be open to that versus making them wait for another hour and a half.
that's kind of what I was suggesting. So thank you for picking
Great.
up on that. This is Chair Bashan's portion of the meeting. I wanted to make sure that he was okay with that.
I'm fine with that, Chair Baker.
Okay, can we get the mayors? I know I saw Sandy Gassman, Wayne Kennecker, Brian Myers. Let's see.
They may or may not want to speak at this time. What they're asking us for
Of course.
is a work session, right?
I mean,
I want to give them the opportunity to speak if they would like to speak. That's always the case in a public comment section. And if they would do so by raising their hand or sending us a message in chat. And I do have some messages here, maybe.
Dave, this is Sandy Gassman, Epworth Mayor. I would just make a comment that we appreciate that you would set a work session for us. And I don't know that we need to spend a lot of time at this meeting discussing it, but we do appreciate the opportunity to be heard.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Gassman.
Good morning, this is Wayne Kennecker. I would echo that same thought. I do feel that the deliberation by the Board of Health made the public hearing seem somewhat of a process more than a valid time for input. I think some of the things that we're hearing with the testing information, even the numbers, and again, the idea that all of the cases could be in one location and then to have a mandate for the entire county seems to be, I don't know how else to say it, but out of line. In the healthcare industry, one of the very first things that's taught, first, do no harm. And I think sometimes we have to look at the cure versus the cause here. And it's time that people are heard, businesses are heard, and I think a work session would be, at the very least, warranted to allow that input to be used wisely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Kennecker. Are there any others that are indicating they want to speak? I'm looking at chat.
Brian Myers would like to speak. He's raised his hand, I believe.
Okay. Do we have Brian
Brian?
unmuted?
I believe so. Well,
We're working on it, Brian. Hang in there. Brian, if you *6, they believe you'll be unmuted.
Hello there. How you doing?
Oh, yep, we got you. Loud and clear.
Sounds good. On the numbers that Tom Beschen gave or provided a few minutes ago, he said there was 14, I believe, that were opposed in that meeting the other night, but there was 14 signatures at the end of the letter alone that Mr. Merton read at the meeting. So I think the number opposed is being misrepresented. Out of the 20 mayors in the county, 14 signed that letter opposing the mask mandate. And there's just too many conflicting comments, information coming out of the CDC. The percentage rates that were given by, I think it was Chris earlier, 7.2%, that's of the people tested. That's not of the people of Dubuque County. I think, you know, it would be a better representation of the total population of Dubuque County, 97,311, versus just those tested. So if you do that, the positivity rate drops to 2%, and the death rate goes less than 2%. So I mean, it's 0.0036%, less than 1%, if you go by total population. So I think there's just, before anything goes any further, the work session would be greatly appreciated, because I think we all need to be on the right page here, and that the people who actually live in the county need to be involved in this decision. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, questions from mayors? And again, the intention is to set up a work session so that everyone has the opportunity to give their input. So any other comments today?
Supervisor Wickham, I would just comment to Tom Beschen and the Board of Health. I greatly appreciate the time and the steps you took to create the resolution, to post those, and to go through the public hearing. That was one of the larger, I think the largest Zoom meetings we've had so far. So obviously there was a lot of attention, a lot of interest on that, and I greatly appreciate all of your volunteer time on that.
Thank you, Supervisor Wickham. Okay.
Chair Beschen, Dave Baker, a question. There apparently are some people who are confused about this. The Board of Health was aware that this issue would come before the Board of Supervisors following the action that they took. Is that correct?
That is correct, Chair Baker. This fully realized that the action taken by the Board of Health must meet the approval of the Board of Supervisors before it becomes effective.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Is there anything else, Chair Beschen, on your end?
Not from this end. Thank you, Chair Baker.
Okay. At this point, then, we will be scheduling a work session. Let me ask Dawn Sherman if she has any ideas of when that might be. We would have to probably make sure County Attorney May is available.
Yep. We discussed earlier today, Chair Baker, about setting our next meeting. We were looking at Tuesday, September 8th, due to the holiday. So I think it would be best use of all of our mayor's time if we scheduled this work session before the COVID, so we could do that right at 10 o'clock if Tuesday is going to be our next meeting date.
Okay. So I'm looking at August. Okay. So September 7th is Labor Day. September 8th would be the next meeting. And that's a week from tomorrow. And we normally have the COVID-19 meeting at 10 o'clock. We could schedule the work session at 9 a.m. Is that your suggestion? Or we could schedule it at 10 and start from that point and then move everything back. So, okay.
Chair Baker, Sandy Gassman, Mayor Gassman had her hand raised.
Yep, I see that. Go ahead, Sandy.
I just want to comment that many of our county mayors, they're part-time positions as mayors, and those people hold full-time jobs. So I'm sure those of us who are able to attend at 10 o'clock in the morning will, but please be aware that we will also be speaking for some of the other mayors who are unable to attend.
Okay, thank you.
I think also, if I might, Patrice, it has to fit your schedule also, because they will have questions. I mean, we've already received a letter from Jim Merton with questions that we will need your help in answering. I will forward it on to you so you can begin doing some of the background work you might need to do. Tom Berger might need to help as well.
And we do have one of our weekly scheduled meetings on Tuesday with the higher ed at 10 o'clock. So I'm just looking at my schedule as well. And maybe if you need Tom and I there, I'll see if Stacy or else Mary Rose could cover that one. Yeah, I'll just do some rescheduling.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting next Tuesday the 8th at 10 a.m. We'll start with the work session, and then the other business will follow. And I think we should probably allow an hour for that work session. So Patrice, perhaps the 11 o'clock start time on that day might work better for you. If you have a 10 a.m. meeting, which I assume will be by Zoom. And then we'll proceed with after the work session with our agenda.
Okay, and I will try and see if I can't rearrange something to be at that work session as well. But thank you.
Okay. All right, 10 a.m. Tuesday, September 8th. And again, please note that we're not meeting on Monday because of the holiday. We're meeting on Tuesday, September 8th. Thank you all. Any questions? And it will be by Zoom. And I will plan on being here at the courthouse. And there were some questions about, if people do want to attend in person. There are no restrictions if you want to attend a Board of Supervisors meeting other than the social distancing and masks in the courthouse. You can come here. Right now, we have myself and about 20 feet away, Dawn Sherman are the only two in this room. But the security will let people in to come to see us. There are some departments that you must have an appointment to go see, and that's the choice of those elected officials. But if you have a human resources issue or a Board of Supervisors issue, or you want to attend a meeting, you're welcome to do that. Okay, anything else? All right, at this point, we will move on then in our agenda. Next up, we have a personnel requisition, basic care aid for Sunnycrest Manor. And we'll ask our Human Resources Director, Dawn Sherman, to comment on this.
Thank you, Chair Baker. I thought we had Chris on. She may still be. So this is a new position at Sunnycrest, and this is something that the state of Iowa is allowing because of the shortage of CNAs due to the limited ability to offer the classes for those. So they have changed their training requirements. So this is a new position that would not do the full duties of a CNA. This would have, anybody who would want to qualify for the basic care aid would go through 7 hours of online testing, and that would be independently, they could do that. And then they need 2 hours of on-site training with with a licensed nurse. And so Chris and her team would be able to provide this. So these would be temporary positions, and they would be temporary until the state decides that they would end the emergency. And then at that time, they would be able to fill in other positions. So this is just getting Chris and her team some added support. Again, they would not be doing the full duties of a CNA, but they would be able to do some basic care for the residents. And just trying to, again, try some different ways to get Chris fully staffed there. And she is on too, that maybe we'll talk about the regulations of it as well.
Dawn, is
Okay,
this a
Chris,
full-time
any-
position?
What was that, Ann?
I asked if it was a full-time job. And how many do you want to hire?
No, it's a PRN, temporary part-time job. My goal would be to hire 5 of them. We have several of our team right now taking the course, and we have had interest from our team's friends that are interested outside of Sunnycrest Manor, that they want to take the course, but I didn't have a position for them. So that is what led me to create the job description and ask for your permission to hire for it.
How did you come up with the wage?
The wage, okay. So the wage mirrors the wage of the program instructor in our Sunrise unit, which mirrors that level. They require some level of training, but not as much training as a CNA. And they're not eligible for any wage increases. If this public health emergency would go on for 6 months or a year, they would not be, it's just $13.25 and that's it.
We just did an internal comparison for this since it's a newly created position even throughout the state. So we just looked at the responsibilities compared to other positions at Sunnycrest, and we thought this would fit in with the program instructor responsibilities.
Okay, it looks like it's a PRN, which is on call and up to 50 hours per pay period. Is that correct?
59.
59, so it's
59. Well, it's pretty small print for these old eyes, so, okay. And is the 59 hours significant for anything?
We just stay below the 30 hours per week. Because anything over that we consider full-time.
Okay, all right.
This might end up being a recruitment tool to bring other folks into the Sunnycrest community. Is a great thing. I think this is a good solution.
exactly what we thought, Ann.
Okay, any other questions on the personnel requisition?
Oh, I'll make, the Supervisor Wickham, I will make a motion to approve the personnel requisition as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the personnel requisition. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried 3-0. Okay, the next item under personnel requisitions is a clerk cashier in the treasurer's office.
Yep, Chair Baker, this is a vacancy due to a promotion. He had a clerk cashier that took a promotion up in the county attorneys, so this is backfilling that vacancy.
Okay, so this is an off-the-street position, basically?
We'll follow the union contract. We would
Okay.
open it up for 5
Okay.
days and then go externally.
All right. Any questions on the personnel requisition for clerk cashier for the treasurer's office?
No, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded for approval. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, carried 3-0. Next up, under personnel requisition, election clerk 2, auditor's office.
So I have been working with Auditor Dolan. She also has, is going to have an upcoming vacancy in her elections department. They are just a small full-time staff of 3. One of the employees is transferring to the county attorney's office, so we will have a vacancy. So since it is a very busy time of year, we were looking at different options of having someone take over the responsibilities of her admin coordinator. So what she has requested is to develop a new job classification, which would be an elections clerk 2. So right now we just have elections clerk. This would be a higher level position, which would take on the training responsibilities. She's going to lose that capacity when the employee transfers out of her department. So we would like to recognize this position of taking over those training responsibilities. So they'll be training the other elections clerks. This is just a temporary position to get her through the election, and then she'll move to fill that full-time vacancy after the election.
Yeah, I was going to ask about if someone was leaving, why this was temporary, especially with the election approaching.
Yeah, Auditor Dolan has identified somebody on one of her elections clerk right now who she believes would be able to assume those responsibilities of being the trainer for those. And so those are the particular duties that she's going to lose that capacity, and so she would like to be able to implement this position, and those responsibilities would be performed by the clerk too.
And then eventually will the position being vacated be posted?
Yes. And that'd be up to when Auditor Dolan would like to do that.
Okay, we can assume after the election. Okay. Questions on this personnel requisition? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
I will make a motion to approve the resolution, excuse me, the personnel requisition.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the personnel requisition for election clerk 2 in the auditor's office. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, carried 3-0.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, next item on the agenda is the approve the notice of public hearing for the courthouse elevator modernization project. Do we have Chris Soder available?
Yep, he's available. I can give a brief update on this. So we did go out for bid for this project in January of this year. We received 2 bids, but we never did award those because that's when we had COVID and we were not allowing contractors into our facility to conduct that work. So there's enough of a time span where those quotes were no longer valid. So we would like to go back out now that we would be able to allow the contractors in the courthouse to perform these duties.
Okay, I have a question. Did we award the bid?
No, it never came to you for approval. We received them and then COVID hit and we pushed pause on it because we were not allowing contractors in the building for quite a few months.
Okay. So the bids were not open and were not made public?
They were not made public, no.
Okay.
A question, what's the purpose of the public hearing?
Because it is considered a public improvement, we're required by law. We anticipate it to be over the $100,000 threshold, and it is considered a public improvement. It's construction in the building, and so we are legally required to hold a public hearing.
So citizens could come in and ask questions and dispute the need for the improvement and so forth?
Yep, we will have a public hearing for them to make those comments.
And what do we anticipate the cost is going to be?
Chris, do you have those quotes in front of you? Sorry, I need to unmute him.
Is Chris Soder available? Is he unmuted?
No, hold on. Oh, he's unmuted now.
Chris Soder, you available there?
We can't hear him.
He's unmuted, but he's not, we can't hear him. Chris, you're unmuted, but we're still unable to hear you.
My recollection is going back to pre-COVID was that the extent of the project was not as significant as was thought previously. I guess the question I have is if the bids haven't been open, they've been received, in order to save money going through an RFP process, could we simply contact them and ask them if their bids are still valid?
We could, because we have had the public hearing for it, but we just did not award the
We've been through
contract.
this would be a repeat,
Mhm.
and I get it that it was caused by by COVID. It seems like an eternity ago that we were talking about this.
Chris had just
but-
stated in chat that the bids were open.
Mhm.
So the bids
The
were
bids
open.
were open.
were opened?
So we,
Yes, they were received, we just never brought them to you for approval.
Don't we usually open bids together? Is that by department preference?
Yeah, some of the bids are opened by the department heads and then brought to you. The sheriff has done it for some vehicles. Some of them have come in front of you when they're actually open. So there's multiple ways that those will come in front of you and disclose transparent to the public.
I would like to hear from Chris Soder why we don't just award the bids as they were opened, and what
Chatting.
what the rationale is for going through another process. And I assume there has to be a publication, additional expense to do that. Public hearing in which I don't imagine we're going to have too many people speaking against improving the safety of our elevator, but because I don't remember anybody speaking on it during the previous public hearing.
No. And when the bids are submitted to us, Most of the bidders will have an expiration date on there, and that's what Chris is indicating, that the bids have expired. They
Karen,
will,
maybe we
they
can
will only
move-
guarantee.
Maybe we can move to the next agenda item, work on Chris's audio.
All right, he's saying in chat that the bids expired, the hold date expired 2 or 3 months ago, so. We have Chris Soder commenting in chat that the bids were open, they were open in the board meeting, and the bids expired, the bid hold date expired 2 or 3 months ago. So,
I will make a motion to approve the notice of public hearing for September 14th at 9 a.m.
Second.
motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. I did not hear Supervisor McDonough's vote, so,
Aye.
okay, thank you. Carried 3-0. All right, next up, on the agenda, appointments, zoning commission application. I believe we have one. And we do have one vacancy, and my understanding it can be male or female. And I would be happy to comment on this. I'm thrilled that we would have Mr. Ken Rundy, former sheriff, U.S. Marshal, indicate an interest in serving on this commission, and I think he'd be an asset to the zoning board.
I will make a motion to approve Ken Rundy to the zoning board.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the application of Ken Rundy to the Dubuque County Zoning Board. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried 3-0. I don't know if Ken's on, but thank you for applying. Okay. Next up, we have a resolution approving and authorizing the chair to sign the memorandum of understanding with the Iowa Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management for the hydrology study funding. Eric Schmickel.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
This, what we have here is essentially the contract, the MOU that we entered with Houston Engineering and the Iowa FEMA, $30,000 from FEMA. Essentially, Houston has not billed FEMA or has gotten further enough along in the modeling process of billing FEMA the $30,000 yet. So I did talk to Rob from Houston a few times last week. They had some calibration problems with the model. It's been a lot more work, I think, on Houston's end than what they had originally thought. We're not getting billed for the additional work and so forth, but we are requesting, and I did talk to Jim Marwadell at FEMA as well, a 2-month extension to allow Houston to complete FEMA's portion of the work that they're paying for. So that's what this is here.
Okay. Any questions for Eric Schmeckel?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
And I will second that.
Motion made and seconded to approve the resolution. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried 3-0. All right, next item, the work session to discuss the watershed program 28E agreement.
So
Eric
here's
Schmeckles as well.
yeah, thank you. Chair Baker, real quick, I just wanted to comment also that I like to see the Iowa corn mask out and about. It's good to see it, good to see it in use. The 28E agreement, as you guys know from our last work session, which is now probably 3 weeks ago, a month ago, went back to the city of Dubuque for their comments. One of the big items that they kind of talked about was holding back or delaying, I should say, the first 6 months of the 28E from July to December and starting their portion in January. I emailed the Red Line City of Dubuque comments out last week, and right now I heard back from the Attorney General on behalf of the district that he doesn't have any issues with the changes. All is well on his end as long as the commissioners feel comfortable with it. I emailed out, the commissioners have not heard anything back, and so forth. So we kind of are back to hopefully a finalized version. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to see this before it is placed on anyone's agenda, city council, district, or supervisor's agenda for approval, so that we all have had adequate discussion and time to kind of review what the suggested changes are. Obviously, one of the, I think, big items, we're already basically to September here. And if you look at the 225 that was allocated and approved back at the budget session for the administration of the 28E, obviously that number would be less now, being that we're delaying the start of the 28E. Essentially, we're a little bit back. This was ideally supposed to start back in July, but the pandemic and other things happened, and so it's thus the delay of the current 28E. So I just wanted to open it up for discussion as what you guys see as the best, the best use moving forward with those dollars. If we, prorate out the dollars per month and start this and get an agronomist hired as soon as possible. If the county wants to, do the same thing that the city of Dubuque is doing, as delaying it till January 1st, that's an option as well too. Realistically speaking, we're to September, kind of an updated time frame on this. Right now, if we're all in agreement on the changes of the 28E, it would be placed for City of Dubuque approval at the September 8th meeting next week, Tuesday. It would also be placed on the district agenda next Tuesday as well for approval. So they potentially could both approve it. We could place it on the supervisor's agenda for next week. Otherwise, we could, delay it one more week to make sure the city of Dubuque and the district have approved it. So you're getting a copy that we all agree upon. So that's kind of the estimated time schedule right now of the 28E. We're hopeful that we can get this wrapped up. As far as the actual hires now, a county agronomist and an urban watershed coordinator, the urban watershed coordinator would not start until January 1st right now. However, we would, right now we'll propose to advertise that position, let's say October 1st. It would be open for 30 days. We would, hopefully select the applicant middle part of November with a January 1st start date. So as far as the county agronomist position, I think we could do something similar to that time frame, or we could potentially bump them up a little bit earlier, but I'm not sure how much earlier we would get someone, up and running and started. So I'll pause there for discussion and feedback.
Eric and McDonough, what's the reason to delay their effective hire date until January 1st?
the city manager felt it was best to kind of coincide with the current hiring freeze the city of Dubuque has, and try and kind of weather the storm a little bit through the COVID precautions and whatnot. And the workload right now is getting done. The stormwater portion is getting done through a couple other interns, and I think departments that are kind of picking up some of the necessary things as it relates to the city of Dubuque. But like I said, at this point, you know, we're to September, so we're realistically only a month or two delayed from our, you know, from where we would be no matter what right now, I guess.
But the county work is ready to go. Don't we have landowner reports? The hydrology studies are done, and we're waiting for someone to start connecting with the landowners?
Yes, that is a true statement. We are ready to go. The job descriptions for both positions are completed. As soon as the 2080 is all signed and agreed upon, I'd imagine the district will try and roll those out as soon as possible, really. That being said, we're entering harvest season. It's going to be the busy time for agricultural producers the next 3 months. So it's going to be a little bit more challenging, but as far as meeting, but on the flip side of that, there's always going to be that introductory educational stage of understanding the program, understanding, you know, federal, state cost share programs, the county program. I mean, there's plenty to do other than meet with landowners. The time to meet with our agricultural producers and start looking at programs, projects, dollars is, in my opinion, is going to be, you know, that December, January timeframe is really when the time opens up and they have a time to start meeting and talking about, you know, 21 and planting and so forth.
So can't we hire the folks who are going to be focused on the county to be ready to go December 1st?
Yes, we certainly could do that. Yep.
Eric, Dave Baker, if because this was, budget was initially set up for July 1st, if I'm not mistaken. So would there be adjustments to the budget if we wait till January 1st, or it's December 1st, or whatever the date is for that position? Would we have an adjustment to the budget for salary and benefits?
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping to get out of today's meeting from what the three of you decide, you know, based on when you feel like the county's portion, you know, would be invoiced from the district to the county, so that the number in the 2080 agreement, right now it sits at 225. You know, at that number, obviously I can prorate it, so we could start it potentially December 1st. If you guys wanted to wait in January, it's split in half, so they would be reduced to, you know, the, you know, 112,000 or something like that. So however you guys see fit as far as starting it, we can prorate it by the month. I just want to make sure that the number is we're all in agreement on it, so that we can get a finalized version sent off to council and the district by Wednesday.
The question I have really is, even if we give the okay today, it's going to take some time to get someone on board. So most likely you're not going to need the 225,000. But because it's in there and it's a 2080 agreement, are we bound to put in 225,000 no matter what we do, or do we need to change that number because this is a three-party 2080 agreement?
This is Ed Raber.
Are we committed to? Yeah.
This is Ed Raber, and as Eric and I have talked through this, I think you've hit on the issue there, Chair Baker. The number that's plugged in for Dubuque County for this fiscal year is $225,000. If you would like, I think what Eric is saying is, if you'd like to say yes, that's it. That's either the number. Let's go with that number. If you'd like that to be prorated as not a July 1 start date in terms of funding amounts, if you wanted that to be just 3/4 of the year, we can prorate that. I'm sure Eric's doing that math right now as I'm speaking, or something else. So if you'd like to just say your contribution will start, because of the time where we are, will start in October 1st, the beginning of the last quarter of the year. That's fine, and hopefully they're anticipating that by the county would be the last partner to adopt this, and it would be on 2 meetings from now on the 14th, and it would go into effect then. That's probably when Eric would feel most comfortable in advertising for that position, trying to get somebody on board in October, and you would have the resources that you've put in to make sure that that person could come on board. If there's a different strategy there, I think I've outlined the way Eric and I have talked about that. If you have a different strategy you'd like to approach that, that's fine. Just looking for some guidance so that we know what to put into that box right there for this fiscal year from the county.
I don't know what box you're talking about. We have plans to hire people. I'd like them hired. That's where I am, and however that fits in your boxes, great. This is on. We want to see movement. We want to see progress. We want to move forward. I'm okay with the city saying they can't bring all the money at the same time. That's fine. But we have things that the county wants to do. Let's not shy away from that. That would be my view. Unless there's something I'm misunderstanding, let's work on our piece.
Yes. And so the box that I'm talking about is on screen, and it's the one that says Dubuque County payment, $225,000. I think the indication I'm getting, I understand the strong support from the Board of Supervisors. We just want to make sure that the number in that box is going to stay the same as we approach our other partners for their approval.
Supervisor Wickham, I would support the box and the number of 225 if that was our original number to maintain, and I would echo what Supervisor McDonough had just stated.
I see your box.
Feedback, I believe it.
Great. I see the box 225. We were firm. I think we should get going. And yes. I appreciate Supervisor Wickham's comment on that.
That is the feedback that I believe that Eric needs. So thank you very much.
Any other discussion? Okay. There is this is a work session, no action, and I think we're looking for, at this point, consensus to move forward, and it sounds like we have that. So let's move this forward as presented.
Sounds good. Yeah. Thanks for your time. I will we'll finalize the 2080 agreement. It will be placed on, like I said, the City of Dubuque Council agenda for the Tuesday, September 8th meeting, as well as the Soil and Water Conservation District meeting. It will then be placed on the Board of Supervisors meeting the following Monday. That would be September 14th for approval. And I think right now there's been support, I believe, from all the different parties. So we will continue down that path and hopefully get this thing up and running here.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
All right, thank you.
Okay. At this point, I'm going to ask for a 5-minute recess.
So moved.
And I will second that.
Motion made and seconded to recess for 5 minutes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, back from our brief recess. And next up on the agenda is a work session to discuss home-based business permit request. I believe Tammy Henry should be on, so maybe we'll go to Tammy Henry for some background.
All right. Good morning, everybody. So
Good morning.
I'm just gonna read in the little document, the letter that we provided to you. I do know that both the Kirsches and the Papes are gonna wanna speak. So we'll just start with our letter for you. So as you know, we have a business known as Outlaw Fabrication that is being operated by Austin Pape, who's living out in his parents' property at 14372 Route 136, Dyersville, Iowa, and it's zoned A1 agricultural. We received a complaint on March 9th, 2020 about a fabrication business being operated out of a machine shed on an agriculturally zoned property. A site visit was completed with an internet search, and at that we discovered there was a business known as Outlaw Fabrication, and it was operating on the property. The Papes were sent a letter and reached out to us to apply for a home-based business application. The home-based businesses may be allowed in areas zoned A1, A2, and R1 and R2 if they meet all the requirements, and no variances shall be applied for if one or more of the criteria are not met. The home-based business would allow for a secondary use of a residential and/or accessory building of a commercial or light industrial nature carried out entirely within the structure of the buildings by a member of the family residing on the premises. The building where the home-based business will operate cannot be located within 500 feet of a neighboring resident's home. If the neighbors live closer than 500 feet away from the proposed business, the applicant must obtain the neighbor's signature on a county form that says they understand that a business is being proposed to operate out of the neighbor's property and that they agree to waive the 500 feet setback requirements for the proposed business before the application can be approved. There are 2 residential homes within 500 feet of the Outlaw Fabrication business. The first belongs to Jeff and Wanda Pape, and they are the people requesting the business on the property for their son. The second home belongs to Jordan and Elizabeth Kirsch, and it's on contract with Joe Nash. Jordan and Elizabeth Kirsch and Joe Nash are not in favor of the business, and they will not sign the waiver. They have many concerns about the business and the private lane. I'm not able to approve the business based on the rules for the home-based business. And as you're aware, there is no variances that we can request for this home-based business application. The variance really is just the document that the neighbors approve. So really, at this point, the way this is set up, the neighbors are the ones that can allow a variance by signing that document. And the 2 people concerned about this are refusing to do that. So again, as a board, some of you are aware that you've asked me to bring this forward because Mr. Pape is asked to speak about this as well as Mr. Kirsch.
Okay, thank you, Tammy. We do have some documents that were included, and there is a copy of the application and complaint form, I guess. So it looks like the moving party in this case would be the Papes, and understand that Jeff Pape may be available. So Jeff, we'll have you speak. I'm going to ask first if either of my counterparts have any questions for Tammy Henry about the question or the process. Supervisors McDonough or Wickham.
Tammy, I have a question. First, to be sure that the other property owners are present. Do we know that? Can we confirm that? And then also I'd like to know, it's before the Board of Supervisors, which I understand is unique. It's not that it can't be done, but can you confirm how it is that it's before us?
It's before you because Mr. Pape had reached out to Mr. Wickham and our Supervisor Wickham, And in the discussion, you know, he just felt that we should be able to bring it forward to let the board discuss it, and that potentially maybe we need to look at whether or not this is working. Maybe we need to look at whether or not we should be taking this back and changing the rules for this. And so, and then I do know that Mr. Pape also reached out to Supervisor Chair Baker. And then again, it was just, let's bring it to a work session. Let's bring it forward. Let's have conversation and see once if we need to change this policy and where we're going with it.
I think you're muted, Supervisor.
Are the other property owners present?
I do know that they were reaching out to us. We were telling them that we had, we were thinking it was going to be noonish, and you've been through the mask thing a little faster than we thought. So I do know that Mr. Kirsch, I think, is on there now. And I do know that Mr. Pape was also trying to join, but the thing is I can't see. I think we just need to ask them to acknowledge themselves either in chat or you know, give us a hands up or something saying they are on and listening.
I am here and listening.
Okay, so Mr. Pape is on, and Mr. Kirsch, are you on? I know that he just reached out to Angie and that he was trying to be on.
This is Supervisor Baker. I spoke with both parties, Mr. Pape and Mr. Kirsch. Mr. Kirsch indicated to me that he was not going to be participating, but that could have changed. I think I talked to him, I would say Friday or Saturday. Perhaps he is.
Jordan, are you on?
Yes, I'm just getting this figured out, sorry.
Okay. So Kirsch is on now as well, Supervisor Baker.
Do we have both parties on? That's good.
Is that the Samsung Galaxy? Is that what Mr. Kirsch is?
Yes.
All right, I see a Jordan K. Thank you.
All right.
And just
Any
one
other
comment that I
questions
would,
for Tammy?
it's more of a, no questions, but just a comment. So from my understanding, you know, we implemented the home-based business opportunity a few years ago, and this is our first contested home-based waiver, basically. And so we haven't had any process. So as I talked to Tammy Henry, I said it's probably best to start with the highest group, and that's the Board of Supervisors. But we've never faced this issue before because the program's relatively new. And currently, Tammy, you might want to give us an estimate. How many home-based businesses do we have registered in Dubuque County?
I'm going to tell you, I think we have approximately 9 or 10.
Okay, so it's been relatively small, and this one's the first, so figured this would be a good forum to try to resolve and see if both parties can be heard.
Okay. Any other questions for Tammy Henry or comments? All right. I think we'll start with Mr. Pape, and then we'll certainly, after he's done, we'll allow Mr. Kirsch then to speak. It would appear that the moving party are the Papes in this case, so I think it'd be best to have them present their information first and give their testimony, and then we'll certainly allow the Mr. Kirsch to speak, and then we'll, I'm sure, have questions. So at this time,
I have questions about process. We're talking about people who are moving and are giving testimony. This is a simple work session, right?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you want me to use other terms. That's fine. I was using from my previous career. If somebody files a grievance, they're considered the moving party. So that's what I'm equating it to. If you don't like the that term, put whatever you want in there. We're trying to counting this one. This is the first one of these we've had. So
I understand.
We're developing.
I understand that. Yes. But is there a document that's asking for relief? I mean, I saw just background like it would come before a regular zoning board. I didn't see someone asking supervisors for relief I think this is just conversation. Usually in a work session, I mean, I did not talk to Mr. Pape. I'm trying to find out what it is that we're being asked to do.
Yeah, my vantage point would be that it's a good question because we haven't gone through this before. So it's probably wise that the supervisors generally understand what we're trying to do here in our session. I would view it similar as a driveway variance. We face those many times, and it comes before us where you have the zoning and you have county engineer, and they're saying, hey, it doesn't fit our specs, and there's the process for us to grant that variance or deny it. And so I think that's what's in front of us. You have the zoning department who's responsible for home-based businesses saying, we think at this point it's just a little bit out of our yes zone, and it's in front of you at the request of the citizens to either grant a variance for the home-based business or deny that. And so you get resolution, at least at the Board of Supervisors. That's what I would be hoping we would resolve today.
Right. And is there something, Jay, that I didn't see in the packet that talks about, I don't even know that we can give a variance. I mean, in the driveways, the things you've described, we can do variances. That's part of the process. So I didn't see anything that gave us authority. Obviously, I want to listen, and there's a dispute that I would hope could be resolved. This doesn't seem to be, superhero to get this done. But I don't know that we can create a new system of variances if it's not already in existence.
Well, we created the home-based program, so we certainly could, we could scrap the home-based program altogether, we could enhance it, or we could modify it. And that's what we're going to be asked to do today. And so I fully believe we have the authority to either grant a variance for this home-based business as outlined by our home-based businesses, or deny it. I mean, I think that's fully within our scope as supervisors. And that's what the zoning board is asking us, the zoning director, Tammy Henry, is asking us to do, because they're at a crossroads. And I think that's why we're here.
As I read it, it says that this is required, period. And if it doesn't happen, it can't go forward. It's a shall language.
I mean, you can take this to Supreme Court if you want, but I mean, I think it's you've got two citizens, probably, both of them good people, both of them have good intent, and one wants to say yes, one wants to say no. I believe we'll let them speak, but and that's our role to be able to understand the ordinances and the use of their properties. And we clearly have a small business program in place, and we have other things in place, and occasionally we will vary from those hard rules or interpret if there are discretions. So I don't see that we need to make it any more complicated than that.
Supervisor Baker here. I agree. The closest thing we have to this would be entrance permits. And when Anthony Bargett and Tammy Henry make presentations, and we just have discussions, there are site distances and clearance that are written in stone, but we have occasionally given variances based on variable facts that not everything is the same. Every case is not the same. So I want to hear more from both folks. So if you're suggesting the language in there is a non-starter and we shouldn't even be having the hearing, I'm not in agreement with that.
Well, I didn't say that, of course, but I'm just trying to figure, but being the odd one out, not knowing, not having conversation with anyone, I'm looking at what is in our zoning ordinances, and that's kind of what I'm going by. I didn't get, no one sent to me the home-based business. Tammy, maybe you need to pull that up and email it to me.
This is in the packet.
It is.
It is.
Yeah, there's like 30 pages.
Yeah. And this is, this ordinance was actually passed in my term on the Board of Supervisors. So it's within the last 3.5 years that this was approved.
If I may, Chair Baker, and if you look on those documents I sent you, it would be page 5 and 6 would describe the conditions for a home-based business.
Correct. And it's using the words must obtain the county, must obtain the signature. And is there somewhere in this home-based business language, Tammy, that says that supervisors can waive requirements?
No, it's not currently in there.
Okay. So we weren't anticipating that there'd be a waiver when we wrote this just a few years ago.
That would be correct. In fact, it does say that no variances shall be applied for if one or more of the criteria cannot be met. I do understand that Supervisor Wickham is basically stating to me that, you know, maybe we need to look at this and maybe reevaluate that, and maybe there needs to be a variance or appeal process to either the supervisors or I guess to the Board of Adjustment, if you want to call it a variance, because they do handle a lot of variances for homes. Again, I look forward to your direction and how you want me to handle this.
Right, and I'm very interested in hearing from the folks who are living the situation. But I don't think we can grant a waiver today because it doesn't exist inside the code itself. We could certainly, you know, look at whether or not that should be established as part of. We could change the home-based business ordinance to allow there to be waiver. I mean, I understand the reason it's there is clearly so that a neighbor is not, you know, precluded from holding sway over what's within 500 feet of their own home.
Yeah, I guess my last comment on process would be, you know, this isn't a court. I'm not a judge. I'm not a lawyer. There's no plaintiffs. There's no defendants. And so we have ordinances that we do help influence and write. But both parties would have obviously the court system to go through, but that's not a really good path to push people through, is that we're not going to deal with it, go sue each other. And so I think it's up to, you know, we're elected officials, and zoning and use of property is one of the areas that we are definitely part of by Iowa code. And so I think providing that guidance, you know, providing whether it be a variance, whether it be a denial of that, is appropriate. It doesn't mean it's the final word. The final word in Iowa would reside within the Iowa Supreme Court. So I just don't think we need to overcomplicate it. I think we just need to hear the people and then make a decision of some sort.
Are you anticipating taking action today?
I would like to give clear direction to the parties on what we interpret related to the use of the property they have and how it does or does not follow our zoning ordinances.
Okay, good discussion. Let's move forward, and we can actually hear the facts of the case and make an informed decision if we make a decision. All right. I think I had indicated I have Mr. Pape as the party that filed the application for the variance through the home-based business or the waiver, if that's the correct term. So let's hear from Jeff Pape first, and then we'll come back and Jordan Kirsch will have the equal time, of course.
Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning. Thank you for your time on this matter, and hopefully we can work through this. So I guess I just want to address the actual complaint. The main complaint is additional traffic on the lane, additional UPS deliveries, and people coming to the property at night to help work on parts. In today's world with e-commerce, UPS trucks are going to come up and go on that lane regardless. They order stuff online as we do at home. Those UPS or FedEx trucks or whatever are in our yard almost daily with our online orders. So that really isn't going to change anything on traffic as far as the trucks go. As far as friends coming at night, I don't think we're in a world where we can limit people coming to somebody's house to visit or help them do whatever they want to do there. Austin does not have any employees. He may, as I said before, he may have friends that would stop over to see him or lend him a hand because he gets something done so they can go to a truck show or whatever. They like showing their trucks at shows and so forth. You know, if we go to work and stop the small business, you're stopping a young man from helping make a living for his young family. He has a young infant son also now a month old, and he's interjecting between $25,000 and $30,000 a year into the local economy also. In the end, once again, traffic is not going to change on the lane with e-commerce. We're going to have the same UPS trucks regardless. As to the letter from the Kirches, they talked about kid safety. It's always a factor. I guess, again, our son has a young infant that's going to want to play and ride bikes. It's no different. I grew up on a county gravel road. When we were old enough, we were instructed safety about being on the road. We rode our bikes between farms all the time with regular road traffic driving by it at probably 45 miles an hour. We all seem to survive through it, so it's going to take some instruction. They've got about 300 feet of lane before it even enters Austin's property. As the kids are young, they can ride back and forth on that 300 feet. When they're old enough to get to a school bus, you know, by then they can be instructed on safety. Signs can be put up on there if there's concern about traffic. Be aware, be careful of kids. I've seen those out along roads as I travel, so there's options there. You know, they mentioned countless FedEx and UPS trucks. I'm not sure what countless really means because we polled Austin's shipments for a 12-month period. And in a 12-month period, we talked about 24 shipments, so that's 2 a month. He does get a little packaging material delivered in and some small parts delivered in, and that equaled also 24 times in the course of 12 months. So we're effectively talking once a week for the business. There is no drive-in delivery stuff for business. They don't come pick parts up that he's made. They're all shipped out UPS. Austin has talked to his friends when they come, hey, be respectful of the driveway. I think that was communicated in a text that Jordan copied and sent also, that even back then that was talked about. They talk about numerous times last year having people stuck in the driveway in the ditch because of two people meeting. I guess I'm not aware of how many there was for sure. The only thing I'm aware of, there is a UPS or FedEx truck, one or the other was stuck in the driveway. I do have Austin here with me also in case I'm referring to him looking for a question. But the driveway wasn't plowed and the truck got stuck. One of Austin and Amber's friends got stuck, and Austin pulled him out with his pickup, and there was nobody else on the lane at that time. My wife, Wanda, is also here, and she was the only one I'm aware of that was in the ditch last year in the snow. Jordan's wife, Elizabeth, come in the driveway, and maybe I'll let my wife tell you that. I don't want to do secondhand here, so if you she said, oh, go ahead. So she basically had to pull off the side to get out of the way because Elizabeth was not moving over. And Jordan did stop after this happened and asked Wanda if she needed any help. He also made a comment at that time, Elizabeth knows not to move over. So is this how you neighborly share your driveway? You tell your wife, don't move over, run the other car off the road? I don't know. Nobody got hurt, no big deal. I went over, it was in a blizzard. I pulled her out, got her out. She drove out the lane fine. So that's the only incidents I'm aware of in a winter. If there's other ones, we were not made aware of them, or they may not have pertained to us. They talk about traffic increasing immensely. So this property was initially sold to another farm neighbor of mine. And that was back when Jordan's grandma and grandpa owned the property. I talked to that neighbor here the other day just to verify there was no accidents that he was aware of on the driveway. Well, he had it. He said no. They claim it increased immensely from 2.5 years ago. Well, I sold this property, a partial part of this property initially to Three Rivers FS. They owned it for a couple of years, and during that time, there was no business conducted out there to speak of other than going out and checking on the buildings. So there was really no traffic on the driveway just because there was nobody out there. The previous owner, the building Austin is in, has a living quarters in it also, so they live in that building. The previous owner used that same building for living quarters for his hired help, and then farm equipment. So farm equipment was on the driveway daily over there. Jude Becker was his name. He said he experienced really no trouble when Jim and Joan Ash lived there. And he said as Jordan and his dad, Ray, began coming out there, he started seeing more and more issues. And he said it's been an issue ever since. I don't know what they were. I didn't get into them. He just said it. Yes, he had those issues. We owned it now 5 years. And shortly after I bought it, I was approached by Ray about not having access on this lane. That has been reviewed by attorneys, and both for Three Rivers FS and privately for myself, and both have showed that there is a 35-foot access agreement down the lane with a utility easement included. And there's also a 24-foot access that actually goes through Jordan's yard into my field. I have no intention at this point to use that. I don't plan on going through his yard, but I can use the lane to access my buildings. Austin can use it to access his building, and friends can go down it. There's no restrictions on that easement. They keep referring to a different easement that was specific to another neighbor, Dwayne and Sadie Gravel. That easement was specific only to them and not us. That is no longer in effect. He owns some ground to the east of me, and we tried for a year to get him to agree to something and never did, so we shut that possibility off. We actually made a driveway for him in our field and put that back into crop. That's a non-point to this, but he no longer travels down the driveway either, so it's actually reduced his traffic on the driveway. They speak about the love of the land for buying the farm out there, and they had the right to buy all the ground I own initially. Kirsch's did as a family, whether it be Ray or Jordan. Once I bought the ground, the first thing I had done is approach them and told them that, hey, I'm looking at selling the front 10 acres and the buildings off. I gave them options to buy it. I gave them options to buy the land all around their little 7-acre farmstead so they could own everything around it. They denied all that. They did not decide to purchase any of that ground. So they had the chance to buy it all. They never bought any, but they want to control it. And unfortunately, that's probably not the way it works. There was one text in Jordan's information between Austin and Jordan. Austin had a friend stop over. He also brought some parts in that his dad sandblasted up at Hermson's in New Vienna for him and dropped them off. While he was there, he got an EMS call, and he did leave at a hurried rate. That text was explained to Jordan. Austin's other friends are told to respect the driveway and drive at a normal rate. So that is a one incident that I apologize it happened, but he is an EMS. He was on the way. Yeah, could somebody have gotten an accident with him? They could. The driveway has a slight hill in it. There's a dip in the end near the highway that maybe a low car would be invisible for a short time. I believe I've sent some pictures of the driveway, so if you have any questions on that, I'd be glad to answer them. You know, in the end, what it comes down to is a complaint about the driveway. I have a list here. I'm not going to go through them all, starting back in November of 18 regarding the traffic on the driveway from Jordan, again on December, and on and on. I told him to make an appointment with me He can email me anytime he wants. I've not gotten anything saying, hey, I want to talk about this. He redid the driveway. And after it was done, he asked me if I'd split the cost. Well, I don't know about you guys on the supervisor side, but if you have a road done, you let them do it and then say, well, what's it going to cost me? If somebody has done that out here in the country, if we're going to do a field driveway or something, hey, we're going to put this in, this is what it's going to cost, you want to split it. We don't come after the fact and say, hey, I want you to pay for half of this, or would you consider paying for half of it? I've got several other farms I run. I take care of those driveways myself for the landlords. I intended to work with this driveway when it started. The Kirsches have caused me a fair amount of issues with trying to get it rezoned and platted and other stuff. I own the property back again. I've told him in one email, I guess I want to find that so I don't misquote it. I said, could I be, excuse me. I had mentioned, I said, do you have, honestly think I have any intention to cooperate with you on the driveway? And this was after multiple issues that we've had through trying to zone it and everything else. I said, could I be convinced to do so in the future? I said, maybe, but I said, it will take a few more years of a better relationship with your family and to stop whining about the driveway. It was pretty bluntly put, but it is never stopped. The waiver situation, we sent that to Jordan, emailed it twice. He never responded. Caught him on the driveway one evening. I said, check your emails. He did. I don't know. We all have email situations, and I tend to check my emails daily. Maybe some don't. But he responded. Basically, the request was for the variance, and then also that we would provide 2 loads of rock every other year. The driveway it gets a couple chuckles like any gravel. It's, if you don't grade a driveway or a road, it's going to get chuckles. I don't know how much gravel he's used to fill the little chuckles. I know it'd be probably less than half a skid loader bucket, but we offered 2 loads every other year with our own dump truck hauled into his yard and dropped. And his response was, trying to find it back here. He didn't see how 2 loads of rock every other year would benefit them. So, I've tried to, even with the variance, to offer some rock, and all it comes down to is they complain that there's a lot of traffic. Traffic's not going to change, whether the business is there or not. The traffic on that lane is not going to change. Austin and Amber come and go as they please, like anybody can. We come and go, friends come and go. They get UPS deliveries, just like we do. Some of his shipping and receiving at that time was probably combined with their regular shipments. So that's kind of where we're at. In the end, no change is going to happen with traffic on the driveway through this business not being there. Kirsches say if they got 2 cars, they leave in the morning, they come back at night. I don't know, they must never have any friends come over or never leave for anything besides work, but our kids do. So that is kind of all I have for you guys. Any questions of me that I can help answer?
Hey, do we have any questions for Mr. Pape?
I do not.
I had one question. There was a reference to a daycare in some of the materials. Can you explain that? Because I must have missed that.
Yes. Well, and the complaint is on the business. The daycare is Austin's girlfriend runs a small daycare. The complaint included not having water tested. Well, the state of Iowa, you don't have to have water tested if you're below a certain number of kids. She had 2 kids in a daycare, and I think you got to have 5 or 6.
Don't matter. The daycare.
It don't matter. The daycare is not being run now anyway, but basically it was just a couple of kids there for a daycare.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right.
Jeff,
Go ahead, Ann.
yeah, Jeff, my question is, what is it that you want us to do? You're asking for home-based business, and it doesn't fit the description that we have right now, because you can't get, you can't even ask for the variance because you can't get one of the criteria. What do you want us to do?
So I guess if you you can't do a variance, I'd ask you to look at the originally written ordinance and see if there is an amendment you can make if need be. The ordinance reads 500 feet. This is a very close situation. So if you go from closest point to closest point, building to building, it's approximately, I believe Tammy has down as 380 feet. However, if you were to look at where Jordan walks in his house on the east side and where Austin's business is, the west side of his building, it's 512 feet. So we're over the 500-foot mark at that point. So I don't know whether the ordinance can read, something to the effect of business entrance to home entrance as opposed to actual building. There's no noise being emitted from the building. That's a non-issue situation. It's strictly the traffic they want to complain about. So I don't know whether there is a change in the ordinance that you can work with, or if a waiver is a simple way to do this, and this because of the actual entrances being 512 feet as opposed to the corner of the building to corner of the building.
And then what would the waiver be? We would be waiving what?
Looking for a waiver on the 500-foot distance, because the current ordinance reads 500 feet. And we requested a waiver signature from the Kirsches, which we knew that wasn't going to happen, but we need to do so and follow our due diligence.
I had a question, Jeff, and again, I did go out and view the properties in question, and you had indicated 512 feet from the from the business entrance, which would be on the west side of the building, and then that's how you get into the shop area. And then on the other side of that is the residential portion of the building. It's what a lot of people would refer to as a house. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so your contention is that the nobody enters the business, for example, UPS, whatever, they deliver to the shop area when he's working in the shop. It's if there's a door open, it would be the west door. That's according to what I wrote down here, 512 feet from the Kirsch's property.
That'd be correct. So the door on the west side is an overhead door. In order to get in, previously he had to walk in through the house and open his overhead door. We have put a walk-in door on the west side so he can just walk straight in over there, because it was kind of a nuisance for him to go through the living area to get in there. The south side has a garage in it and the living space combined. He did have his shipping table set up in the garage temporarily, just because of where he was able to set things up at the time. But now everything is, and the UPS did have to pick up at that house door, the south door of the building by the overhead door, but now everything would go around the back. Currently, we have moved everything. Shipping and receiving is coming to our farmstead over here. When the complaint was filed, we moved the business address over to here.
Okay, thank you. All right, other questions for Mr. Pape? Hearing none. Mr. Kirsch, Jordan, if you would like to give us your, and I hate to use the word testimony, so your statement maybe would be a better way to put it. Just tell us your concerns about having this home-based business.
Hi, can I first say that I've never and would never tell my wife to run anyone off the road. And the 120, it's number 2 on the list to be 500 feet away from a building. I mean, it's number 2 on your list. And it does create traffic. I mean, Jeff can say what he wants, but it is busier. The use of the property, it's zoned ag. So the fabrication, which I know they're trying to get switched, I understand. But it'd be on page 5, B and G, right off the bat.
You know, as I read this, I don't see that Mr. Kirsch has to really give us a reason why. Because he's saying it doesn't fit the 500 feet. And so, you know, it could be for a ridiculous reason. It could be for a private reason. You know, so I appreciate very much that you're here, Mr. Kirsch, but you know, I don't, whatever the reason is, it doesn't fit within the 500 feet, right? That's really what we're at. It doesn't fit in the 500 feet. So you have to get a neighbor's permission, and the neighbor won't grant the permission. So what to do next? If you're not able to negotiate that with, you know, payment or loads of gravel, if no other outside neighborliness can make that happen, then I guess, you know, we got to look at what are we supposed to do? You know, Jeff, have you ever asked Mr. Kirsch what it would take to get their signature? You know, it's clearly got to have some kind of value to you.
It would, but I think I've already asked that with 2 loads of rock, and they said that's not going to help. So if we can't apply rock to help, I don't know what it's going to take.
Well, what if it was?
We have access to our property regardless.
What if it was $5,000? I'm just completely making something up. What if it was a cash payment? That, I don't know, who doesn't like cash payments? That helps everybody.
You know, if somebody were to approach me prior to doing some work, and we may have considered something, but the ongoing issues we've had there with this driveway and continuing to try and tell us we don't have access, this is the 3rd time that that's been attempted. It's made for some pretty tough feelings. And I mean, if somebody was doing that to you and telling you, you know what, your driveway, you can't use that because it's only supposed to be used for farming, and you have to go to a lawyer twice to have them write another letter, it's going to create some hard feelings, and it makes it tough to work.
I understand, but there's a business element of this too. And I've certainly rented from people and had fiscal relationships with people that were not my friends. And then it just comes down to what's the cost to get what I need so that I can do business where it works, where it fits.
Yeah, but I already have what I need. I have access to my property, and I don't know why I need to buy something for a business that is essentially legal. I believe maybe we need to look at this ordinance and consider it. You know, is 500 feet far enough? Is it too far? I don't know. I mean,
right.
If Dave was out there, if where you're standing, you can barely see their house with the cornfield in the way. Right. Corn planted 5 or 6 months out of the year.
The difficulty is, you know, when there's a situation where people are at loggerheads and they can't reach conclusion, that doesn't make a very good, in my opinion, very good policy to make change, because there's only a winner and only a loser. And it's very specific tied to people and to cases. And that's, I personally think that's to be avoided when you're looking at making the best policy for the county.
Yeah, and I don't know what it would take to get them to agree to sign the waiver. I guess I have no idea, Ann.
Chair Baker, I'm confused on where we're at right now. Are we?
I'm just going to ask Mr. Kirsch if he has anything else to add. to his statement. And then I thought we could get into questions, additional questions. Hearing none, I do have a comment. I remember talking to members of the zoning board. I remember, I believe he was chair at the time, Jerry Sigworth Sr., contacted me about this, and what you would have is somebody would be operating a small business out of their shed, barn, whatever, and everything would be okay. And then I'll try to make this suitable for general audiences. A peeing match might develop between those, and then all of a sudden the home business that was okay for years suddenly became not okay. That's really where, you know, this started, because our zoning ordinance is complaint-based. And Tammy Henry, I'm sure you'll agree that we don't have zoning police out there every day looking for zoning violations. Is that correct?
That's correct, Chair Baker.
Okay, so the zoning board asked for this, and you know, it was a work in progress. We've had, it sounds like 9 or 10, and I think it's been about 3 years. So you know, we're getting 3 or 4 a year.
If I may, Chair Baker, I would tell you probably 5 of those are ones that did not need signatures from neighbors, at least 5 of those, because they were not within 500 residents of a residence.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay. Other questions or comments for the Kirsches or the Papes? Tammy, other than the 500 feet, if this were 501 feet, would this have been approved?
If this were 501 feet and we had no one complaining and we didn't have the other issues like, you know, traffic or things like that, any other concerns, the answer would be yes, it would have been approved.
Okay. All right.
Supervisor Wickham, if I can jump in, I mean, so it appears to me there's also a question on the 500 feet. At least that's what I've looked at it. I mean, clearly there's different marcations as far as where you start and stop. And so that alone is, you know, maybe we can make that clear in the future if we need to. And so maybe jumping into kind of where I'm at on this for my colleagues and the citizens that are here, you know, when you look at, you know, the home-based business, you look at the, you know, the ability for people to use their private property as they see fit, within our realm generally of the laws and rules and ordinances that we have both in rural and urban areas. I mean, I think that's a pretty strong right that we have in the United States and hopefully in Dubuque County related to private property. And so I would be, you know, leaning to, you know, provide, if we could come up with consensus, provide direction to the zoning administrator to approve the home-based business application based upon the, you know, the proximity of the 500 and the variance of that, and then just you know, leaning towards the use of somebody to use their private property to benefit their family and the community.
We have Attorney May with us. I mean, when we don't follow the ordinance that says that no variance shall be applied, when we don't follow that and we try to find ways around that, you get sued. And that's just not fair to everybody who lives in the county, that we try to find ways around what's written. Sometimes it hurts bad. and it knocked something out that was a sweet thing. And sometimes, but the property owner, and whether he's an awesome person or clearly he's not a friend, but that's why we set up those things. So you can't give a variance by the way we've written this. Now, if we want to go back and rewrite the whole thing and add something, I guess we could do that, go through that whole process of amending an ordinance. But I don't see where there's waiver here. I don't see waiver. I think we're making up something.
Yeah, and I would generally, understand the written home-based law. I helped write that, or excuse me, the ordinance. But I think, how are you going to interpret the 500 feet? So that's a judgment call as well. So there's no, and so, well, going back, this isn't a court of law. There's not going to be a judge deciding this. We've got 3 people, and we've got citizens coming and saying, hey, here's a land use issue. What do you feel or think? And so I think it's, the directive to the county administrator, the zoning administrator, to either, approve or deny the home-based business. That's what I think our role is to provide that direction. And if individual parties disagree with that, they have other remedies. But for us to say we're just not going to do anything, I think is why do you get paid? Why do we show up? I think we need to provide direction. We need to provide supervision. That's our role. And at this point, from what I've heard and understood, while I would like, everyone to have their own peace and tranquility in their own driveway, that's not the case here. And from what I've understood, I think it would be more of a burden for us to shut down a business and to take away somebody's livelihood on their own private property. So I would like to, reach consensus with the board to provide direction to the zoning administrator to approve the home-based business application.
This is Supervisor Baker. I have a question for Tammy Henry. Have we done any measurements out there? Do we have any verification of the 500 foot to that from the west entrance to the Kirsch's entrance, or I believe it was, let's see, I have it in my notes here, 380 feet was the residence's door, 512 feet from the residence's door to the business's entrance, which would be that, I believe it's west entrance. I think that was what Mr. Pape had indicated. Can we use our camera system, our GIS system to measure that? Or do we need to go out and physically measure that? And have we talked about restricting deliveries only to that entrance?
Chair Baker, we have done the measurement, and in fact, we just did another measurement while this has been going on. So we have went to the west side of, I'm gonna say the first building that enters when you come into the property, Mr. Pape. So the first building that would be closest to the home of Jordan's home. When I go from the west side all the way over to the front of their home, to the, I guess would be the west side of their home. So if you're looking at this aerial, I'm going to go from the west side of the white building, and I'm going over, as you can see, where we have the 380 feet mark. So I now have just done a measurement that takes us, and that measurement takes us at 484 feet on our GIS mapping system. If I take and go from the west entrance of the building that we're talking about, I'll say the white building, and if I go clear over to the furthest point, which you can see the bump out on the home, which I would call like maybe a covered porch area or whatever, that measurement is 516. I will say that in the ordinance, the way that it reads is it cannot be operated and cannot be located within 500 feet of a neighboring residential home. It does not say entrances of the home.
Right. I think it would be it'd be pretty common to say, what we see right now on split screen, it's the closest end of the building to the closest end of the other building, that's your measurement, the closest to the closest. You know, otherwise, I mean, I would say that's the clarity, and it's the commonsensical, and everybody can measure that. So, you know, I'm not going to have consensus on this. I enjoy Mr. Pape, and I appreciate the work and the help he's been to me, but I would encourage him to find another solution with his neighbor.
All right, well, we know where two supervisors stand. We're looking for a third. Chair Baker?
Gee, this never happens.
Do we want to ask the county attorney if he wants to weigh in on the legality of granting a waiver when we can't do a variance?
That's not the consensus what I was looking for. So I mean, I was saying the consensus is to direct the zoning administrator to approve the application.
I want to ask
you're clearly on the other side. So yeah, that just to make sure that you're clear on my consensus, Supervisor Baker, what I'm looking for. And I'm open if, you know, Attorney May wants to give us any opinion or guidance. I'm happy to take that.
Yeah. Tammy, have you denied this application? Tammy Henry?
Sorry, I was muted. So I have not denied the application. I have conversation, but we actually don't even have a completely signed application. We had started the conversation with Mr. Pape and with Mr. Kirsch, and so I have not denied it. But if it were completed and sent in to me today, I would have no choice but to deny it based on the policy, the ordinance.
All right, and Mr. Kirsch, you noted that the 500 feet was number 2 on the list. I'm looking at the ordinance, and I can tell you from having gone through this, I don't think they listed them in priority order. It also says no outside storage for the business will be allowed on the property, and I don't believe that's an issue. Talks about parking spaces and no more than 4 non-resident employees, which I have in my notes written 4 bodies. So I don't think there's any priority given to these, but it says if the neighbors are closer than 500 feet, then they're a county form that says they agree to waive the 500-foot setback. But I think there is a question, or at least enough of a question on the work being done and how they access that is not within 500 feet. And that's, if the distance is the one and only issue, if we have an entrance permit and Anthony Bargett comes to us and says, you know, it doesn't meet the spacing requirements, we'll look at other factors. We'll look at what is the speed restrictions on the road. For example, is it 55 miles an hour or 25 miles an hour? We will look at, you know, the terrain, the surface of the road, and, you know, make a decision. And in most cases, Tammy and Anthony come to us with the fact that it's been denied, and they're asking for a variance. But in this case, I think we have two questions, and if we're going to ask County Attorney May to weigh in, I would welcome that as well. But we've got, you know, I guess number one, is there, do we have the ability to give a variance if we do with entrance permits? And secondly, is the 500 feet, is there any, can you give any credence to Mr. Pape's argument that it's 512, and I think Tammy said 516 would be from the two entrances? So I would be interested in hearing from County Attorney May as well. And I don't know if he wants to give a bench decision on this, or if it is, you know, if he'd like to take a look at the ordinance and you know, give us his opinion.
Chairperson Baker?
Good afternoon, County Attorney May.
Well, here's my thinking on this. I haven't been asked to look at it. The ordinance I know about, of course, but the facts of this particular case I was not aware of. So I'd be happy to, you know, analyze those two things together and give you an opinion. But if I'm hearing what Tammy said, that there really, at this point, is not a completed application on file with zoning, is that correct?
Right, she can't take an application because it doesn't fit the criteria.
I see, okay. Very good.
And if I may, CJ, the application has been sent to me. I just needed signatures on it yet. And so, and this all came up, and so there wasn't really a concern about the application being completed as much as it was about the concern from the neighbor and from Mr. Pape on how this was going to move forward. And so that, I know, you know, that's where we're at with it. The application has been turned in partially. I just need a couple of signatures. So that wasn't really my main concern.
I understand. Thank you. So in summary, I mean, I'd be, like I say, I'd be happy to take a look at that. And I could have it ready for your next meeting if you'd like, or what you're going to put on the agenda at wherever point. That's fine with me.
Okay, I think that sounds reasonable. We have CJ. We did have we have a packet of information that's been that's part of the hearing for today, if that's the correct term for the work session, and certainly we can make sure that gets forwarded to you. I would say if there is an issue with an application that's not signed, it should be signed, and it sounds like that's not the point that Tammy was trying to make, but so that can be remedied, I guess. So.
Well, here, if I may, Chairperson Baker, why don't I do this? I have access to the packet, so I'll look in there, and if I have any questions, I'll get with Tammy, and then I'll get something in writing to all three of you, and to Tammy, of course.
Okay, and then CJ, I would also ask if you would reach out to our county engineer, and you know, the process of granting variances for entrance permits has been around a long time, long before any of us were on the Board of Supervisors. And, you know, there are times that we've gone against the recommendations for various reasons. Maybe we could get a little input from Anthony, has vast knowledge in that area. So.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great idea. Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else for today?
Could we ask Mr. Kirsch if he has anything further? If he's still with us?
Yes, I am. Thanks. All this should have been taking place before the business was there. I mean, the business is there. We should have been talking about this a year ago.
Okay. Understand. And you filed your complaint in March? Is that correct?
Is that an anonymous complaint? Or do they have to be signed complaints?
At the time, that was an anonymous complaint, Ann, and we do take anonymous complaints.
Right.
Okay. And just, I guess, follow up to Mr. Pape. I think you might have said this earlier, but how long has your son been operating the business, home-based business in the current location?
They moved there in December of 2018. And he moved some of his stuff over there shortly after that. I mean, he was doing a little bit of agriculture welding for some guys at the time. So that was within ag business at that time. But now it is primarily, doesn't do much ag welding anymore, a little bit, but the majority of it would be his outlaw fab business.
Okay. All right, and then just one other question. My understanding is Austin Pape works full-time at a manufacturing facility, and this is basically a home-based part-time business. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, any other comments or questions? I'll start with the Papes.
I guess I have none other than the fact that I've stated before, traffic is not going to change. I mean, they're going to receive deliveries the same as we do, and it's not going to change.
All right. Anything else from Jordan Kirsch?
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. All right. Thank you all, and CJ, we'll make sure that the information gets forwarded to you.
That'd be great, Supervisor Becker. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate your patience and your civility.
Thanks.
All right. We're moving on. Next item on the agenda is a resolution to approve federal aid SWAP funding agreement number 6-20 HSIP-SWAP-038 for project HSIP-SWAP CO 31111-F-31. Paved shoulders with rumble strips and grooved in edgeline markings on Sundown Road from Monastery Road to US 151. And do we have Anthony Bargett? I see, I don't know if he's on. I see Merle Ambrosi is on here. Not sure if that's, okay. Who will be speaking on there?
This is Anthony. I'll be speaking on this.
Okay, Anthony.
Good afternoon. Well, this would be the swap funding agreement that the DOT has sent to us for signature. This would, like you said, this would be for the Sundown Road paved shoulders project from approximately Monastery Road down to Highway 151. It'd be for up to $486,000 in HSIP funding. We are allowed to spend beyond that, but they will only fund up to $486,000. The funding would not be available until October of this year, but we plan on bidding this out sometime this winter. It'll be a 2021 project, calendar year project. Any questions?
Anthony, I had a question, Supervisor Baker. Whoop, no, I had a question, please. Does this have any impact on the culvert replacement on Sundown Road? Or I know what this is the southern part of Sundown Road, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so it won't affect the scheduled reconstruction of the north part of Sundown Road, but we do have that culvert issue. Will this hold this up in any way, getting that culvert replaced?
Not at all. In fact, I've been monitoring some emails today. Sounds like that culvert replacement is going to be sometime next week. So these two projects would be well separated from each other in time.
Okay, and I drove it the other day. I think we've done a pretty darn good job mitigating the fact that the thing is collapsing. At first, it was pretty significant. So, okay, thank you for that. All right, we do have the resolution. Supervisor Wickham, you were about to make a motion before I interrupted you.
Yes, I will make a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the resolution. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried 3-0. Okay, next up, resolution to approve federal aid swap funding agreement number 6-20 STBG-SWAP-039 for project STBG-SWAP-112-FG-31. Grade and pave improvements to Northwest Arterial, D10, South John Deere Road, build project. And again, we'll go to Anthony Bargett for the presentation on this.
Okay, this would be for the DMATS funding that we were awarded for up to $1.5 million for preliminary and final engineering, and also in addition, construction engineering costs. So the consultant engineering costs that we will incur on this project will be funded through this grant. This would be the kind of the first step before we approve the contract eventually with Foth Engineering. And then we'll have a separate engineering package for the construction engineering eventually. But this would be the swap agreement to cover all of the engineering portion of this project.
Okay. Any questions for Anthony?
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
And I will second that.
Motion made and seconded to approve the resolution. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried 3-0. All right. Next up is item J, resolution to approve the LTP agreement with the City of Zwingle for the Main Street pavement repair project. And again, we'll go to Anthony Bargett, and this is part of our small city's construction improvement program.
Okay, this will be for the fiscal year 21 small city funding projects. A subcommittee that ECI put together helped score this, and Zwingle was one of the recipients of this particular grant. It is for the city's contractor to repair frost heaves on Main Street, and they were awarded $25,000 in LTP funds. The total project cost is $32,400, and I would recommend this one.
Okay, any questions for Anthony?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the resolution. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried 3-0. Okay, next up on the agenda is a resolution to approve the LTP agreement with the city of Balltown for the radar speed limit signs project. Again, we'll go to Anthony Barchett.
Okay, this will be another fiscal year 21 project as approved by the ECIA subcommittee for the small city funds. This would be for the city to install speed limit signs on Balltown Road and Horseshoe Road. The LTP funds grant received was $7,118. And then the total project cost is $8,898. And I would recommend this contract.
Okay, any questions for Anthony?
Move approval.
And I will second that.
Motion made and seconded to approve the resolution. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried 3-0. Item L on the agenda, resolution approving MEF Hotspots Grant Award. The information's in your packet. I don't know if we have Sheriff Kennedy or Chief Deputy Reneker on board here. Apparently not. I think this is a recurring grant award. It is, looks like it's $11,000. Any questions? It's zero match. It's Kelly Odding is available. Is he unmuted? Okay. I think Kelly Odding was available if you have any questions.
I do not, unless you wanted to make a public statement about the grant.
I don't have any.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the resolution approving the MEF Hotspots Grant Award. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried 3-0. All right, next up, last up on the agenda actually is a work session with Teamsters Local 120 representatives to discuss agreements. Now, I want to ask Dawn Sherman if this is going to be an open session or closed session? I checked with CJ. Open, okay. All right, so we'll go into the next item is the grievance, and I believe we have that in the packet. And Dawn, are you handling? Okay.
Supervisor Baker, this is part of the grievance process. It's the opportunity for the board to appeal the county engineer's grievance decision to the Board of Supervisors. So they will be presenting their information to you, and Anthony and I are also available for any questions.
Okay, so my question was, who will be the spokespersons for the county? It'll be you and Anthony. Okay. And we have John Kluwijk, business agent for Teamsters Local 120, and we have the grievant, Robert Sam, are both present here in the supervisors' chambers. And at this time, I'll defer to the business agent, John Kluwijk, to make the presentation on the grievance. Maybe I can shut mine off first a minute here.
All right. I just wanted to thank everyone for their time here today. Good now? We are here today to appeal to the Board of Supervisors to allow Mr. Robert Sam an opportunity to continue his employment with the Dubuque County Secondary Roads Department. He is a 20-year employee who recently, outside of work hours, received an OWI, therefore resulting in a revocation of his license. We are asking that he be afforded the opportunity to take a leave of absence until such time that his license would be reinstated. And I believe at that time he would also be eligible to apply for a Class B CDL. And I do have some additional paperwork here, Mr. Baker, that I had for the supervisors. And this is basically just Dubuque County's substance abuse prevention program for all county employees. I have highlighted just a couple sections. As you see on the first page, it says that the policy applies to all employees of Dubuque County. And then further down, you'll see the next highlighted section, which affords an employee a chance to go through a rehabilitation program and maintain their employment with the county. And so basically, that's it in a nutshell. We're just here asking for the supervisors to take a look and see if there's anything that we can do so that Mr. Sam may continue out his career with Dubuque County.
We cannot hear you, Supervisor Baker.
Thank you. That's because I shut my mic off. All right. I did want to go through the union representative, Mr. Kluwijk, to see if Mr. Sam would want to make a statement at this time or later on in the process here. You might have to turn your mic on there too if you want to talk there. So
I turned it off because it was squealing.
you're good. You can just talk into that. Yep.
Yep. I'm just asking for a 6-month leave of absence. I have 20 years experience there, and like they have a hard time getting new employees that know about the construction field, so, and at one time, a few years back, one employee got a 6-month leave of absence to try a different job, and he didn't come back. I'm just asking for a 6-month leave to come back to the same job, because I have the experience at the position. That's all.
All right, thank you. Okay, I guess I would go to Dawn Sherman then for the county's position on the grievance. And Anthony Barjett.
In your packet, I do have indicate the process that we took. So when Mr. Sam notified Anthony that of his driving restrictions, upcoming driving restrictions, he did request a leave of absence. He also asked if there was some consideration to maybe be reassigned within the department where there would not be any driving responsibilities. So we did review, Anthony and I reviewed that together, looking at his operations. We also had discussion with County Attorney May as well. So Anthony determined that that was not going to be the best use of employees, that to be reassigned, he would be looking for work to do, and that this position, a driver's license, is vital. He's driving almost all the time, and that would be a hardship to have this go unfilled or have a position unfilled for 6 months, especially during upcoming snow season as well. So those were considered by the county attorney, and ultimately he decided that that was not in the best interest of his operations.
You said county attorney, you did mean
county engineer.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and we'll use that as a segue. Anthony, any input, comments?
Not really. You know, I stand firm on the position I took in the letter in response to the grievance. It is a hardship to hold a position aside for 6 months. When, you know, especially we're coming up on the winter season, we need to fill those roles and make sure that we have enough staff to you know, perform our snow removal operations and the other operations that we have to perform. I also want to state that about 8 years ago, there was another employee that got an OWI on his own personal time and was also terminated because he did not maintain his CDL. So there is past precedent for this situation within our department.
Okay. Any questions for Dawn or Anthony, or for that matter for Mr. Klugwijk? I guess I want to ask Anthony a question about, I was reading in your memo about the interlock devices. Is that something that you considered as an option?
That is something that Don Sherman and myself, we discussed and felt that would be a hardship to put it on, you know, different vehicles. You know, there would be at least 2 vehicles that he would operate. You know, one would be a dump truck, one would be the sign truck, and then whatever else he would have to operate. So we felt that would be a hardship to the department as well.
Okay. We had mentioned someone from 8 years ago, and is there other history that we're aware of? Or is that the most, are you citing the most recent case?
That's the most recent case. Now, I believe there was something years before that I don't know all the details, but there might have been an OWI in that situation or something like that, and an employee kept the job, but I don't know a lot of the details there.
Okay.
Chair Baker, I have one additional clarification, if you don't mind. We did discuss this with County Attorney May regarding the license. And so it's our understanding that after 6 months, Mr. Sam would no longer be required to have the interlock device in his vehicles, but he would still be disqualified from having a CDL license for a year. So he would, the job requirements of that position is for all of them to have a CDL. So it's our understanding he still would not be able to have a CDL license for a year after his conviction or violation.
Okay.
So this would restrict many of the vehicles that he can drive out in the roads department.
All right, I want to give the union and the grievant a chance to respond to that. So if you care to address that.
It's my understanding that he can obtain a Class B CDL after his revocation is lifted. Wouldn't be a Class A, but he could obtain and apply for a Class B.
Okay, then I'll ask this question. Whoever wants to answer, whether it's Anthony or Mr. Sam, even though Mr. Sam may have a Class A CDL, which is tractor trailer, does he utilize the Class A in his employment with Dubuque County?
No, I never. Any vehicle I drive, the sign truck or the pickup plow, doesn't even require a Class B.
Anthony, any?
Yeah, I mean, when we hire employees, they are hired based on a Class A CDL. That's our stance. As Class A is required.
But there was some people that got hired that didn't even have it, a Class A, when you hired them also.
Not under my tenure.
Okay, so hiring criteria, Anthony, for at least the last 5 or 6 years has been Class A CDL?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Anyone have any other questions for either the union or Dawn Sherman or Anthony Bargett?
This is Supervisor Wickham. My only question would be is what is the process? So what are our roles as supervisors to deny, approve, ignore, receive and file? Give me a little guidance on that, please.
So you will have to either approve or deny the grievance, and then if you deny it, the union, through the union contract, would have the opportunity to have an arbitrator listen to our cases as well. But you will need to make a decision to approve or deny that today to stay within the timelines of the union contract, and then I would draft up your response and have Chair Baker sign that.
Okay.
Thank you.
I did want to ask a question. The substance abuse, Dubuque County Substance Abuse Prevention Program was presented, and under applicability, Section 2, it's highlighted. It says the policy applies to all employees of Dubuque County, and I think most will agree that CDL drivers, drivers that can maintain a CDL are certainly harder to find. And I think in our, Anthony, I think you'll agree that, the number of qualified candidates has, been reduced over the last few years because of numerous reasons, but there's a shortage of drivers out there. So I guess to me that would be a reason why we would want to consider the right or the ability, I guess, to allow an employee to complete a substance abuse treatment program, if that is recommended, following an evaluation. So I guess I'd want to hear from Dawn Sherman and or Anthony about that.
Yeah. So the policy that they sent to us, that is if an employee going through the random or reasonable suspicion drug or alcohol test, if they had a positive, that we would have a one strike and you're out type of policy, where if they go to a substance abuse professional and complete the treatment, that so they would just be issued a leave of absence for that. But just because you test positive for a drug and alcohol test on a random has no effect on your license. You would still have a license. This would involve, these are two separate issues as I see them. This would be if he showed up as a positive in our random. And again, that positive would have not affected his license, but the OWI has.
Okay, but if somebody wanted to argue that having a positive test at work would be given random, and I understand there's a difference, but randomly given, that there would be an opportunity to go through a program and one-time right to rehabilitate is, I think, the term that is used in the industry. But in this case, because even though it happened away from work, because there was a loss of license is the issue here.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay. Other questions from the Board of Supervisors?
I do not have any.
Okay. Supervisor Wickham?
None for me.
Okay.
No questions for me.
Okay. And we do have John Klutwijk, the union business agent, would like to speak. I'll allow him to do that.
I just wanted to respond to the last comment. If an employee for Dubuque County Secondary Roads was pulled on a random, went in and blew over the limit for alcohol, that person would in fact lose their life. They would lose their CDL.
They would lose, right. They would lose it until they provided a negative, or excuse me, yeah, negative test, right?
No, the DOT would just take their CDL. Class A would be gone for a year.
Okay. So that is a distinction that even with the county's current substance abuse prevention program, they could lose their license and would lose it, you're saying?
CDL portion.
Okay. All right. Thank you for pointing that out. Any other questions or comments? I want to make sure we get all the information, all the facts into the record.
I have one statement, if I may, Chair Baker. So when we looked at the grievance as well, we looked at it as a grievability issue. We allowed Mr. Sam to retire, and so that is how our official record is with the county, is that he separated from service due to retirement, not by any action on the county. He attempted to rescind it about a week later. There was some confusion on the language of his email, so we have not accepted that. We continue to have him classified as a retirement from the county.
Okay, and I do see in the packet, there's a note, handwritten note. I, Robert Sam, am retiring from Dubuque County on July 20th, 2020. And I believe that's your signature, is that right, Mr. Sam? Okay. I'll let the union or Mr. Sam explain themselves on that. Explain that document.
But that was under the stipulation that I was told I was going to get my sick pay payout also. But then the next morning, Dawn called me and said that that wasn't going to happen, that they weren't going to give me my sick pay, but I could rescind my retirement letter if I wanted.
And we were notified that you did not want to then a day later, and so that's how we left it. We received an email from Mr. Dubuque that you were not wanting to rescind that, and so we filed your paperwork as a retirement.
The following day after that, I filed a grievance and filed for unemployment because I figured I was fired.
Okay. So are you saying today that the grievance is actually your rescission of the retirement?
Pardon?
Your grievance indicated that you don't want to retire.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
What was I guess for either John Klutwijk or Don Sherman, was the grievance filed within the timelines specified under the collective bargaining agreement?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. There's no time limit issue. No? Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments from Supervisors McDonough or Wickham?
I do not have anything.
Okay. At this point, then, we make a decision to approve, I guess it would be uphold or deny the grievance. And the grievance is in the packet. Mr. Sam and Mr. Klutwijk, I did notice that the grievance does say be made whole for all lost wages and benefits. At that, with my understanding, if he was requesting a leave of absence today, that would be 0. Is that correct?
Correct. For the 6-month leave of absence, that would be 0. It'd be,
okay. Because that's what he's asked for, right?
That's what he's asking for here today.
And that leave of absences are without pay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And the request is also for no loss of seniority, which is that's standard. So I wanted to clarify the make whole reference. And as Dawn Sherman had said, this is a step in the process, the second last step. There's been local level discussions and answers to the grievance. At this point, there hasn't been a resolution. So the Board of Supervisors has the ability to end this today by upholding the grievance and returning, allowing Mr. Sam to take the leave of absence and then return to work when he's able. And the other is, if it's denied, then Mr. Sam and the union have the right to move to the next step, which is the last step, which is arbitration. Okay. Want to make sure we had all the facts out there.
Super,
I would
maybe just to clarify, and and so is it the recommendation of the county attorney, the county engineer and our HR director to deny the grievance? Is that a hard recommendation?
This is Dawn. That would be my recommendation. We still see this as a retirement, so there's nothing that would prevent Mr. Sam from reapplying for a position when he fully meets the qualifications of those positions, which would include the CDL.
This is Anthony, and I would agree that I'm standing firm on the denial of this grievance.
Thank you.
I had a question for Dawn. Have we ever had anyone say that they're going to retire on a certain date and then not get to that date and rescind and say, I decided I really don't want to retire, I want to move forward, I'm going to stay?
I don't recall anybody putting anything in writing, and then but that would be again up to the county if we would want to accept that.
Okay. I'm guessing at some point in our history it's probably happened, but, okay. As chair, I'm not usually the one that makes motions. I do think that, you know, giving employees a fair shake, and under the policy that was presented, that is a Dubuque County policy. And Dawn, we do agree that this is one of our policies?
Correct.
That's been presented. I would like to see us at least consider this as a, admittedly a bad decision, but keeping in mind that termination is the capital punishment in the employment world, and you know, for somebody who actually reported to work and had a alcohol or blood test and a random test would get a chance to go through a program, but somebody who gets one away from work does not. And I think, to me, I would like us to consider that, that everybody can make a mistake. So I will then, if I'm not hearing anything else, I'll make a motion to uphold the grievance, also noting that there is no back pay or fringe benefits to be paid, and that he be returned to work upon being eligible to perform his job with no back pay and no fringe benefits provided, and no loss of seniority. And I'm not hearing a second, so I'll defer to my counterparts.
This is Supervisor Wickham. You know, I've worked with many people over my years, as I'm now in my mid-50s. You know, I understand what the loss of a job can do to an individual and to their families, and I would never want to put anyone specifically in that position unjustly. And unfortunately, I think we're at that situation. Our highest paid and I would say most experienced professionals in our HR director and our county engineer have made the recommendation to deny the grievance and basically to cause the termination of employment. And at this point, I would be honoring that. So unfortunately, I will be making a motion to deny the grievance.
Second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded to deny the grievance. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And all opposed use the sign of nay. Nay. It is carried 2-1. So you'll, and I don't know if you need a written response as the trigger for.
Yeah, I'll draft up a response.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for your professionalism, and we will, good luck in the future.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, we have one item left on the agenda. It's public comments. I know we had some earlier, but I'm going to go through this as well. Public comments at this time, anyone may address the board on matters which are of concern to that person, which are not agenda items. Please go to the podium, state your name and home address, or in this case, via Zoom, raise your hand, or send us a message on chat. Please be aware that the board is limited in their ability to respond to such inquiries, and Iowa Code prohibits the board from deliberating or acting on items not appearing on the agenda. So I will look for hands raised, chat, comments, if anyone wants to speak. And we'll give an appropriate amount of time. And we're not seeing anything, so I would ask for a motion to recess until our next meeting.
So moved.
Tuesday, September 8th at 10 a.m. There's a motion to recess and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Carried 3-0. Thank you, and we are in recess at 1:27 p.m. Have a great day and be well.